right now. As you're watching this, Mount Samiru is erupting again and again and again, 40 times in the past 7 days. The ground won't stop shaking. Pyroclastic flows, superheated avalanches of gas and rock traveling faster than a car, are racing 13 kilometers down the mountain. That's 8 miles of unstoppable destruction. Over 1,100 people have abandoned their homes. 200 houses are gone. 3 people are in the hospital with burns covering 20% of their bodies. 143 animals killed instantly. And scientists watching the seismic monitors can't tell you when it will stop because it's not stopping. It's accelerating. And the data they're seeing right now is terrifying. On November 19, 2025, at 2:13 in the afternoon local time, Mount Samiru, Java's tallest volcano, detonated without warning. Not once. Multiple times, a series of pyroclastic density currents exploded from the summit crater, tearing down the southeast flank at speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. The flows traveled 13 kilometers, the farthest since the 2021 eruption that killed 57 people and left 23 missing. Ash columns punched 2 kilometers into the sky. That's 6,500 feet above the summit. Seismic instruments at monitoring stations around the volcano recorded a 40-millimeter amplitude spike. That's massive. That's the kind of reading that makes volcanologists immediately reach for the emergency alert system. The eruption lasted 16 minutes and 40 seconds of sustained violent ejection. 16 minutes of continuous pyroclastic flows. 16 minutes of superheated gas, ash, and rock fragments pouring down the mountain like a liquid avalanche of death. 3 people were caught in the hot ash cloud while riding motorcycles across the Gladak-Perak Bridge, 13 kilometers southeast of the summit. They thought they were far enough away. They were wrong. The thermal cloud engulfed them. They suffered severe burns across 20% of their bodies. 2nd and 3rd degree burns from ash that was still hundreds of degrees hot. They're hospitalized, alive, but fighting for recovery. Within 3 hours of the initial eruption, Indonesia's Center for Volcanology, where Diplane meets, PVMBG, raised the alert from level 3 to level 4. AWAS. That's the highest level in the 4-tier system. That's the immediate danger to life level. That's the everyone within the exclusion zone needs to evacuate now level. Over 1,100 residents fled their homes in the villages of Supit Urang, Oro Ombo, and Penanggal. Communities on the southern and southeastern slopes. They grabbed what they could carry and ran. They're now sleeping in mosques, schools, and government buildings. Temporary shelters with thin mattresses on hard floors, families separated, uncertain futures. 200 houses have been damaged or destroyed. 21 of them so severely damaged they've been declared uninhabitable. 8 prayer rooms, vital community centers in these Muslim villages, obliterated, buried under meters of volcanic debris. 1 school building wrecked, classrooms filled with ash, textbooks incinerated, 204 hectares of agricultural land buried or contaminated. That's over 500 acres. Rice paddies covered in toxic ash, grazing fields destroyed. 143 livestock, cows, goats, sheep, killed instantly by the heat and suffocating ash fall. And here's what makes this truly alarming. The volcano hasn't calmed down at all, not even slightly. On November 27th, just yesterday, Semeru erupted again at 7:47 p.m. local time, sending a 500-meter ash column drifting southwest over populated areas. In the 6 hours before that eruption, seismographs recorded 41 separate eruption earthquakes. Earlier that same day, 54 more. That's 95 eruption earthquakes in less than 24 hours. Authorities have established a 20-kilometer exclusion zone on the southeast side, the sector where pyroclastic flows are most likely to channel down river valleys. 8 kilometers in all other directions. Roads are blocked. Military and police checkpoints prevent anyone from entering because the mountain is still active, still unstable, still erupting, and still extremely dangerous. Mount Samiru is a stratovolcano, a massive cone built from layers of hardened lava, ash, and rock accumulated over thousands of years. It's Java's tallest peak at 3,676 meters, over 12,000 feet. And right now, deep beneath that summit, magma is surging upward through fractures in the Earth's crust. Here's what the data is showing. In 2025 alone, Mount Samiru has erupted approximately 2,152 times. That's more than any other volcano in Indonesia this year, a country with 127 active volcanoes. Let that sink in. Nearly 3,000 eruptions in 11 months. That's an average of more than 7 eruptions per day, every single day, for the entire year. This isn't a volcano waking up. This isn't a volcano in a normal eruptive cycle. This is a volcano in a state of chronic, violent, sustained instability. The seismic readings from November 27th alone paint a terrifying picture. Between midnight and 6 a.m., instruments recorded 54 eruption earthquakes, each one representing an explosion of gas and magma fragments blasting through the summit crater. Amplitudes range from 12 to 22 millimeters, durations from 85 to 149 seconds. That's not quick bursts, that's sustained shaking lasting over 2 minutes at a time. By afternoon and evening, another 41 eruption earthquakes, amplitudes 12 to 22 millimeters. Durations 53 to 97 seconds. And then, at 7:47 p.m., another full eruption. 500 meters of ash blasted into the atmosphere in 152 seconds of explosive violence. The seismic amplitude hit 22 millimeters. In addition, 4 avalanche earthquakes were recorded on the morning of the 27th, and 1 more in the afternoon. Those represent rockfalls and structural collapses on the volcano's flanks. The mountain itself is destabilizing. Loose pyroclastic material from earlier eruptions is cascading down the slopes, creating secondary hazards. This is not normal volcanic activity. This is a system under extreme continuous pressure. Pyroclastic density currents, PDCs, are the deadliest volcanic hazard on Earth. They're not lava flows. Lava you can see, lava you can outrun, sometimes. Pyroclastic flows? Absolutely not. They're avalanches of superheated gas, ash, and rock fragments that can reach temperatures of 700 degrees Celsius. That's nearly 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to instantly ignite wood. Hot enough to boil water on contact. Hot enough to cause third-degree burns in seconds. They move at hurricane speeds, sometimes exceeding 150 kilometers per hour. They flow like liquid, following valleys and riverbeds, expanding outward with terrifying speed. They incinerate everything in their path: trees, houses, animals, people. On November 19th, those flows traveled 13 kilometers down the Besuk-Kobokan River drainage, one of the primary channels on Semeru's southeast flank. That's farther than the 2021 eruption, which reached 11.5 kilometers. That means the pressure behind this event was stronger. The volume of ejected material was larger. The explosive force was greater. The danger zone has physically expanded, and satellite thermal monitoring conducted in the days following the eruption shows elevated heat signatures at the summit. The lava dome inside the crater, a plug of viscous magma that caps the vent, is actively growing. Magma is accumulating beneath it. Pressure is building behind it. Gas is trapped beneath it. Scientists at Indonesia's Center for Volcanology are monitoring this around the clock. 24-hour watch, seismographs, thermal cameras, gas sensors, visual observation posts, because every piece of data they're seeing suggests the same thing. Mount Samiru is not finished. The eruptive cycle is ongoing. The system is pressurized. And the numbers are only getting worse. Over 1,100 people are living in evacuation shelters right now. That's 1,116 individuals, men, women, children, elderly, displaced from their homes with no clear timeline for return. Families sleeping on thin mats in school gymnasiums and mosque prayer halls. Personal belongings left behind. Livelihoods abandoned. The villages hit hardest. Supit Urang, Oro Oro Ombo, Penanggal are agricultural communities. These aren't wealthy resort towns. These are rice farmers, livestock herders, small business owners, families living close to the land. The volcanic soil is fertile. The growing seasons are productive. That's why people live here, despite the risk. 200 houses damaged or destroyed, 21 of them classified as severely damaged, structurally unsound. Roofs collapsed. Walls caved in, interiors buried under ash. Those families have nothing left. 8 prayer rooms, community centers, places of gathering, places of spiritual refuge, buried under ash and pyroclastic debris. Gone. 1 school building wrecked, desks overturned, blackboards shattered. The education of hundreds of children disrupted indefinitely. 143 livestock killed. That's not just a statistic, that's people's livelihoods. In rural Java, livestock are wealth, their income, their food security. A cow is a year's savings. A herd of goats is a child's education fund. 143 dead animals represent economic devastation for dozens of families. 204 hectares of agricultural land have been impacted by ash deposits and pyroclastic flows. That's 504 acres of crops, grazing land, and farmable soil now buried under centimeters, sometimes meters, of volcanic material. Rice paddies smothered, vegetable gardens destroyed, harvests lost, income gone. And volcanic ash isn't just dirt, it's toxic to many plants. It hardens like cement when wet. It takes years to rehabilitate contaminated land. And then there are the 3 burn victims, caught on the Gladak-Perak Bridge during the initial eruption on November 19th. They were riding motorcycles, a common mode of transport in rural Indonesia. The pyroclastic surge reached them before they could escape. 20% of their bodies covered in severe burns from superheated ash and gas. They're hospitalized in Malang, stable, but their recovery will take months. Skin grafts, infection risk, permanent scarring, if they fully recover at all. On November 20th, 178 climbers, porters, and guides were stranded at Ranu Kumbolo, a high-altitude lake on Semeru's northern slopes, a popular trekking destination for adventure tourists. They were trapped, cut off by the eruption, access trails blocked by ashfall, visibility near zero, the constant threat of another pyroclastic flow or volcanic bomb. Rescue teams had to evacuate them on foot over 2 days, navigating unstable terrain, falling ash, and trembling ground. They made it out, all of them, but the mountain is still closed. The trails are still dangerous, and the volcano is still erupting. Tens of thousands of people live on Mount Samiru's slopes. The soil is rich, the land is productive. Many families relocated to these villages after the devastating 2021 eruption because they had nowhere else to go. Economic necessity drove them back into the red zone. They rebuilt homes in the same areas that were destroyed 4 years ago, and now, with a 20-kilometer exclusion zone in effect on the southeast flank and 8 kilometers in all directions, thousands are once again directly in the path of potential destruction. Because what comes next could change everything. Mount Samiru has erupted over 40 times in the past week alone. That's an average of more than 5 eruptions per day. And the frequency isn't stabilizing, it's increasing. Let's look at the seismic data from just one 24-hour period, November 27, 2025. Between midnight and 6 a.m., 54 eruption earthquakes. Amplitudes 12 to 22 millimeters, durations 85 to 149 seconds. Between noon and 6 p.m., 41 eruption earthquakes, amplitudes 12 to 22 millimeters, durations 53 to 97 seconds. That's 95 eruption earthquakes in 18 hours of monitoring. Do the math. That's 1 eruption earthquake every 11 minutes for 18 straight hours. Non-stop volcanic violence. Each of these earthquakes represents an explosive event at the summit. Pressurized gas escaping, magma fragmenting, volcanic material being ejected into the atmosphere or cascading down the flanks. The seismic amplitude, the measure of ground shaking, consistently hitting 12 to 22 millimeters, means significant energy release. That's not minor tremors. That's violent, sustained eruptive activity. And it's not just the summit crater. Avalanche earthquakes, which indicate rockfalls, landslides, and collapsing material on the volcano's flanks are also being recorded. 4 on the morning of the 27th, 1 more in the afternoon. That means the structure of the volcano itself is becoming unstable. Loose pyroclastic deposits from recent eruptions are cascading down the slopes under their own weight. And when that material is still hot, and it is, it creates secondary pyroclastic flows and lahars. Speaking of lahars, on the evening of November 21st, just 2 days after the major eruption, rain triggered a volcanic mud flow along the Regoyo River. Hot pyroclastic deposits from the November 19th eruption mixed with rainwater, creating a fast-moving slurry of mud, ash, rock, and debris. It surged down the riverbed at speeds estimated at 50 to 70 kilometers per hour and deposited tons of material across the Picket Zero Road, a major transport artery connecting the cities of Lumajang and Malang. The road was closed. The Gladak Perak Bridge, the same bridge where 3 people were burned on November 19th, was shut down again due to low visibility from steam and ash. Traffic was rerouted. Emergency services were delayed. Lahars are a continuing threat, and here's why that's terrifying. The rainy season has begun in East Java. Monsoon rains, heavy sustained downpours that last for hours. Every time it rains heavily, the risk of another lahar increases exponentially. And right now, there are kilometers of unstable volcanic deposits sitting in river valleys, the Besuk Kobokan, Besuk Bang, Besuk Kembar, Besuksat drainages, waiting for the next storm. Indonesia's National Disaster Management Agency, BNPB, declared a 7-day state of emergency in Lumajang Regency on November 22nd. That declaration has since been extended indefinitely. Emergency response teams are on standby. Evacuation routes are being kept clear. Shelters are being stocked with supplies because the threat hasn't diminished at all. Drone surveys conducted on November 23rd over Sumbermujur village and the Besuk Kobokan Bridge area revealed the full scope of devastation. Entire houses buried under 2 to 3 meters of pyroclastic deposits, infrastructure destroyed, roads impassable, entire sections of villages unrecognizable under thick blankets of gray ash. Survivors who returned briefly to Supiturang village on November 27th to salvage belongings reported that many homes are now just ash-covered mounds. Roofs caved in, walls collapsed. Everything inside, furniture, clothing, family photographs, destroyed or buried. The volcano is still at alert level 4, AWAS. The exclusion zone is still in place. Seismic activity is still elevated. Eruptions are still occurring multiple times per day, and no one, not the scientists, not the disaster agencies, not the local authorities, can say when or if it will stop. Here's what experts are quietly preparing for: a scenario where Mount Samiru produces another major pyroclastic flow event, equal to or larger than the November 19th eruption. The volcano is still at alert level 4. The exclusion zone is still in place. The seismic activity is still elevated, 95 eruption earthquakes in a single 18-hour period, and the thermal signatures at the summit captured by satellite infrared monitoring indicate that magma is still actively feeding the system. The lava dome is growing, pressure is accumulating. If, and volcanologists are saying when, not if, another large eruption occurs, the pyroclastic flows could extend even farther than 13 kilometers. They could reach populated areas currently sitting just outside the current exclusion zone, communities that think they're safe, families that haven't evacuated, people going about their daily lives unaware that the danger radius could expand at any moment. And those flows could trigger massive secondary lahars that flood river valleys for dozens of kilometers downstream, far beyond the immediate volcano flanks. Towns like Lumajang, 32 kilometers to the east-southeast, and Malang, 35 kilometers to the northwest, both have rivers originating on Semeru slopes. A major lahar event could threaten infrastructure, bridges, and communities far from the mountain itself. The 2021 eruption killed 57 people. It displaced over 10,000. It destroyed more than 1,000 homes. And that disaster happened because the eruption occurred with insufficient warning, and the pyroclastic flows moved faster and farther than computer models had predicted. People were caught off guard. Evacuation orders came too late for some. The flows reached villages that were supposed to be outside the danger zone. This time, the response has been faster. The warning systems are better. PVMBG raised the alert level within hours. Evacuations began immediately. Over 1,100 people were moved to safety before nightfall on November 19th. The climbers stranded at Ranu Kumbolo were all rescued within 48 hours. But here's the problem. The volcano doesn't care about preparedness. It doesn't follow predictions. It doesn't wait for evacuation orders to be completed. Mount Samiru has erupted nearly 3,000 times this year. It erupted over 40 times in the past week. It erupted 95 times, 95 separate explosive events in just 18 hours on November 27th. And every seismic reading, every thermal scan, every gas emission measurement, every visual observation is telling scientists the same thing. This is not over. The people living in evacuation shelters don't know when they can go home. The families with destroyed houses don't know how they'll rebuild. The farmers with buried fields don't know how they'll survive the next growing season. The burn victims don't know if they'll fully recover. And the mountain, Java's tallest peak, one of the most active and dangerous volcanoes in Indonesia, one of the most closely monitored volcanic systems in the world, keeps erupting right now as you're watching this. The ground is shaking, the summit is glowing, and the next explosion could happen at any second. Stay alert, stay informed, keep watching, because Mount Samiru isn't finished, and neither is this story.